hope you're doing well and welcome to the Home Broadcasting Channel. My name is Mtala Mkosia. The tiny Horn of Africa nation Djibouti has quietly become one of the most strategically important countries on earth. Despite having a population of less than 1 million people and very limited natural resources, Djibouti now hosts one of the highest concentration of foreign military bases in the world. The country has become a geopolitical crossroads where global superpowers including the United States, China, France, Japan and Italy operate military installations only miles apart from each other. Today, we examine why Djibouti has become the center of global military competition in Africa, how foreign powers are using Horn of Africa to project influence, and what this growing geopolitical rivalry means for the future of the continent. To understand why Djibouti matters so much, we must first understand geography. Djibouti sits at the southern entrance of the Red Sea, directly beside the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, one of the world's most critical maritime checkpoints. This narrow gateway connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and ultimately to the Suez Canal. A massive percentage of global trade passes through this route every year, including oil shipments, container cargo, military logistics, and commercial goods moving between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. In modern geopolitics, controlling or monitoring strategic maritime checkpoints means controlling global influence. This is exactly why major superpowers are competing for military presence in Djibouti. The most significant foreign military installation in Djibouti is Camp Lemonnier, operated by United States. It is the only permanent American military base in Africa and serves as a major headquarters for operations across the Horn of Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and parts of the Indian Ocean. Thousands of American personnel operate from the base, supporting counterterrorism mission, intelligence gathering, drone operations, and regional security coordination. But the rise of China has dramatically transformed the strategic picture. In 2017, China officially opened its first overseas military base in Djibouti. That moment sent a powerful message to the world. Beijing was no longer limiting itself to economic influence alone. China was now building the capacity to protect its commercial routes, overseas investments, and global interest militarily. China's military base sits remarkably close to American facilities, creating one of the rare places on earth where militaries of the world's two strongest superpowers operate side by side. Analysts increasingly view Djibouti as a miniature version of growing global competition between Washington and Beijing. For the United States, Djibouti is essential for counterterrorism and maintaining influence in East Africa and the Middle East. For China, Djibouti is connected to the broader Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's massive infrastructure and trade expansion projects stretching across East Africa, Asia, and Europe. China has invested heavily in Djibouti's infrastructure, including railways, ports, logistics, and industrial projects. One of the most important projects was the railway linking Djibouti to Ethiopia, a landlocked region giant that depends heavily on Djibouti's ports for international trade. Approximately 90% of Ethiopia's external trade passes through Djibouti. This means Djibouti is no longer just a military hub. It is also becoming an economic gateway to East Africa. But the competition does not stop with America and China. France maintains a major military presence in Djibouti dating back to colonial history. Japan operates a base focused largely on maritime security and anti-piracy missions. Italy also maintains military facilities in the country. These bases were initially justified through anti-piracy operations near the Somali coast, but today they present something much bigger: strategic position in an increasingly unstable global environment. And now, the geopolitical competition is intensifying even further. The wars and tensions in the Middle East, instability around the Red Sea, Houthi attacks on commercial shipping routes, and global trade disruptions have increased the strategic importance of the Horn of Africa. Any conflict affecting the Bab el-Mandeb Strait can impact oil prices, shipping costs, global supply chains, and international markets almost immediately. As a result, foreign powers are racing to secure military access, intelligence networks, naval logistics, and political alliances across East Africa. This has transformed Africa into a major theater of 21st century global competition. For decades after the Cold War, many believed Africa will remain politically peripheral in global power struggles. The assumption is rapidly collapsing. Today, Africa is becoming central to international competition because of its strategic geography, natural resources, young population, maritime routes, and expanding markets. Russia's increasing military and diplomatic activity across part of Africa. China is expanding infrastructure and economic influence. The United States is trying to maintain strategic partnerships. Turkey is growing its military footprint in countries such as Somalia. Gulf countries are investing heavily in ports and logistics. Europe powers remain concerned about migration, trade security, and terrorism. Djibouti sits at the intersection of all these interests. The government of President Ismail Omar Guelleh has strategically used the country's location to attract foreign powers and generate revenue. One Djiboutian official famously described the country's geography as our oil. Foreign military leases generate millions of dollars annually for the government, while logistics and port services support the national economy. Djibouti has effectively monetized its geographic position. However, this geography also carries serious risks. One major concern is sovereignty. Critics argue that excessive dependence on foreign military powers may weaken African independence and expose countries to external political influence. Some analysts fear Djibouti could become trapped between rival powers competing for dominance. There are also concerns that Africa could once again become a battlefield for foreign geopolitical struggles rather than prioritizing African interests and development. The presence of rival military bases only a short distance apart creates intelligent tensions, surveillance competition, and potential security risks. In previous years, the United States even accused China of using military lasers against American aircraft operating near Djibouti. Another growing concern is debt and economic dependency. China's infrastructure investment across Africa have generated both praise and criticism. Supporters argue that this investment helps build roads, railways, ports, and industrial capacity that African countries urgently need. Critics warn that some governments risk becoming financially dependent on Beijing through large loans and strategic infrastructure deals. Djibouti often appears at the center of this debate because of the scale of Chinese involvement in its economy and infrastructure. At the same time, ordinary Africans increasingly question whether foreign military competition truly benefits local populations. Despite hosting major international military powers, Djibouti still faces unemployment, poverty, inequality, and political criticism. President Ismail Omar Guelleh recently secured another term in office, extending a leadership period that has lasted more than 2 decades. Opposition groups and critics continue raising concerns about political freedoms and democratic competition. This reflects a broader African debate. Can foreign strategic partnership translate into genuine development for ordinary citizens, or do they mainly benefit political elites and international powers? The answer remains uncertain. What is undeniable, however, is that Africa's geopolitical importance is rising rapidly. The Horn of Africa is no longer viewed only through the lens of poverty and conflict. It is now viewed as a strategic corridor connecting Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. Whoever gains influence in the region gains leverage over some of the world's most important economic and military routes. This explains why conversations are increasingly emerging around ports, military access, naval facilities, logistics hubs, and regional alliances from Djibouti to Somaliland, from Eritrea to Somalia, and across the wider Red Sea corridor. The competition is not only military, it is economic, it is technological, it is diplomatic, and it is ideological. The future of Africa may increasingly depend on how African governments manage this global competition. Will African nations successfully use foreign interests to accelerate infrastructure, industrialization, and regional integration, or will external rivalries deepen dependency, political instability, and strategic vulnerability? Djibouti today represents both an opportunity and a warning. An opportunity because it demonstrates how strategic geography can create economic and geopolitical value even for a very small nation. and a warning because history has repeatedly shown that when powerful nations compete in weaker regions, local populations can sometimes pay the highest price. The new global competition in Africa is no longer coming. It is already here. And at the center of that competition, standing quietly beside one of the world's busiest waterways, is the small but enormous strategic nation of Djibouti. If you've got any comment or contributions, please do so in the comment section. My name is Mtalam Kosia, and this is the Horn Broadcasting Channel.